I had, just as an example, I had a teenager come to me who was brought to me by his aunt. He was struggling in school. He was just frustrated. He was a smart kid, but he was, adrift, as a lot of teenagers are. And so she wanted him to understand his life purpose so that maybe he could have a little bit different perspective on his path. So I did a very short reading with him. It might have been 30 minutes. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But I talked to the aunt about maybe a month or two after the reading. And I just asked her, so how's he doing? How did he respond? And she's like, oh, he's completely turned around. His life has totally changed. He's excited about school now. He's got all these new interests, and his whole world opened up from that reading. So that made me really happy. So sometimes I don't hear the response. I don't hear back from people sometimes, but I know it makes a difference. Because I've heard it over and over again. Yeah, I still have that little piece of paper you gave me on the life purpose, and I still carry it around, and I stuck it on my fridge, and I look at it. I hear stories like that all the time. So that's really fun. I don't know what else is like that. You know what I mean? It's profound.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Clark. I'm founder of LightNet, and my passion and purpose is to make the impossible possible. We're here today with Cynthia Clark. She retired at a very young age after selling a successful business, and then she went to a library and opened a book and had deja vu. This book was about palmistry, or the art of hand analysis, and she was so excited that she ended up studying with some of the most famous people in palmistry worldwide. And she has read over 8,000 people's hands. Now, this is an art form that has been passed down for over 4,000 years. And we have noticed the patterns, and she will tell you all the incredible things that you can learn from your palm. She can be found at ascension17.com. She has a podcast called Life Ascended and a book called The Mojo of Multidimensional Manifesting. Check this out.
My purpose actually found me, which I'm very grateful for. I used to own a restaurant, and I ran that for 7 years with my ex-husband in Southern Utah. And we sold it when I was in my early 30s. So essentially I was retired by age 31. And I did like most retired people do. I got an RV and I traveled the country. But after a few months, I started to get very antsy, and I'm like, I feel like I need to be doing more than just traveling and having fun. I feel like there's more for me to do. I'm way too young to actually be retired. And so I went to the library. And the library is a place I highly recommend when somebody's looking for something to do that's productive, because I ended up finding a book on palmistry. And I had never studied it before. I didn't know anything about it. And I picked up this book, and I had this profound deja vu moment where I knew that I had studied it before. And it was so familiar to me. And I was just, what is going on? And I got a really clear message from somewhere. You need to study this again. And that was the exact message. So I ended up testing out the material from the book to various people in my inner circle, my husband being one of them, and some friends and family. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. And I was like, wow, okay, this is really helping people. And they're so excited about it. And everybody wanted to know more. And that was the turning point for me. Palmistry is the reflection of you. So you can think about looking into a mirror. Your hands are that mirror to your everything. You can discover your life purpose. It's in your fingerprints. Your fingerprints form 5 months before you're born. They never change. They are the DNA soul imprint of you. They're your roadmap. And that's how I read them. I read them like a roadmap. And you can learn so much from your hands. There's also your personality archetype. You can learn your subconscious influences. You can learn about how you look at the world, how you interact with the world. Your free will choices reflect through your hands. You can discover your talents, your potential talents. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's amazing how much is in your hands. This study goes back at least 4,000 years. It's a very ancient study. It's believed to have originated from India or China. I suspect it's actually even older than that. And when you think about studying different markings in the hands and then trying to figure out what it means over time, it becomes clear. That's all I can say. It's like a language. It's like learning to read hieroglyphics. And eventually those hieroglyphics start to have, they have significance and they make sense. So I would say over thousands of years of trying to determine what different lines meant or what different markings meant or what different configurations of your hand shape, that is actually how we came to modern hand analysis. So the lines mimic the neural pathways of the brain, and they ebb and flow like rivers of energy. And I've tracked people now for almost 20 years. And what I love about that is I have records of, multiple prints over time, and you can see the changes in the lines over time, and you can absolutely see changes. So, and both hands change, not just one, but both hands actually do change. So it's very significant. When I had that deja vu moment, I did not know anything about palmistry. It was the very first book I had ever picked up on palmistry. I was curious though, because I had studied astrology, I had studied other disciplines a little bit. At that time though, probably not that much. When I look back on it, I was still pretty young. But when I discovered my fingerprints, okay, so that was a whole nother, that took it to a whole nother level, because I had never really thought about my fingerprints before. I had never really thought about them being a language and a roadmap to your life. I had no idea. So I actually found my teacher online at the time, and he's the one who actually created the whole fingerprint life purpose system. He's been reading hands since the 1960s. He's in his 70s now, and he's, I just was like, I need to learn from him. So I reached out to him, and he actually sent fingerprint patterns to me in the mail, and we did it over the phone. So we studied fingerprints together, and it was an amazing experience, because to learn from him, he had been reading hands for 40 plus years. So I wanted to learn from him, because I definitely had a connection. His name's Richard Unger, and he founded the International Institute of Hand Analysis. So he's considered one of the most prominent fingerprint readers in the whole world, for sure. So I was really fortunate to study with him when I was first learning how to read fingerprints. And so what I learned from that was that my purpose was the passionate, wise woman. I'm here to teach my passions And I'm here to educate people through my passions, which makes perfect sense to me because I've always been a very passionate person. I get really enthralled in stuff. I get really immersed in what I enjoy. And I also have learned that what I enjoy is usually something very esoteric. And most people have either never heard of it before, or they know very little about it, or they just have misperceptions. I'll just put it that way. They have misperceptions about it, especially palmistry. So I would like to dispel the myths that are out there and all of the superficial stuff, because it used to be a very well-respected science. It was taught in universities during the 1400s. It was the third book on the Gutenberg press was a palmistry book. I mean, it was very well respected. So I don't know why it's not now. It should be. And I feel like people, if they only knew what their hands had to tell them, they would have a different opinion about it. In my opinion, the fingerprints would change lifetime to lifetime because we have different agendas. We have different soul purposes. We have different lessons that we're learning. And that's going to reflect in that roadmap. So personally, I think we would have different fingerprints in each lifetime. We may have similar things though. Like for example, our lineage shows up in our fingerprints. And you can learn about that through your Jupiter finger, which is your index finger. But there's themes and patterns that I think would carry across different lifetimes, but there would definitely be differences. One of the biggest struggles that I encountered was just, I guess the first thing that came up was I didn't realize how few people actually knew anything about palmistry. I mean, I didn't know anything, but it turns out almost nobody knows anything. You know, when you look at the population as a whole, I speak in front of a lot of audiences now. And one of my first questions is always, who's studied palmistry before? Or what have you heard about palmistry before? And almost always the answer is virtually nothing. So people are coming in essentially with a blank slate, or they've had a little reading where maybe they had a 5-minute reading of somebody read something in their, they talk about the M and, stuff like that drives me crazy because it's like, okay, they didn't know anything. And that wasn't really an accurate reading. But so that was a big challenge. And I've also been accused of being a witch. I've had, I was called demonic. I mean, I've had to deal with stuff like that. Fortunately, not too often, because once people actually learn that it's a science and it's a language, and there's nothing evil about it. I mean, it's your freaking imprints. It's tangible. Like, how can you deny what's tangibly on your body? There's nothing evil about that. So there was a little bit to overcome with that. And I think I continue to educate people about the truth of what hand analysis really is. It's an ongoing process. Embedded in my fingerprints, I have a deep understanding. I have a deep clarity of who I am and what I'm here for. I chose this. I chose everything. And I'm very happy and passionate to do that. So I'm here. I think the reason why most people don't know their purpose is because they've never been introduced to the concept. I think the education system is sorely lacking in a lot of the important stuff. And by important stuff, I mean the ancient studies, the ancient esoteric studies like palmistry should be included in every curriculum starting at a very young age, because that would give people a much better perspective on what life really is and what's important. I also feel like most people go through life essentially unconscious. So they don't realize that they are the co-creators of their lives. They don't realize that they can change things and impact things and live purposefully and authentically and joyfully. And so they're essentially in a shadow version of themselves, which is the life lesson, which is also in your hands. You can see challenges and lessons and blocks and all kinds of stuff reflected through your hands. But through that shadow aspect, or what I also call the not self aspect, the not self is really there to help you grow into your purpose. So I do feel like everybody can get there. It's never too late. You can get there, you can figure it out. But it does take a little bit of willingness to open up to new things. And personal growth is something that I highly recommend for everyone on the planet, because we just are not taught that at a young age. We're not taught, hey, our soul's evolving. We're here for a purpose. We're here for a reason. It's never too late. But I do feel like as a society, we're not exposed to it like the way that we should be. So the advice that comes through reading their fingerprints, people's fingerprints, has been incredibly uplifting and rewarding work over the years. I've actually worked with over 7,000 people now in the last almost 20 years of doing this work. And the reaction is always very uplifting because it gives you a different perspective. It's your soul perspective. So yes, we all have a personality. We all have things that we think we're good at or not. We all have preferences, right? And all of that's in the hands. But the soul imprint is different because it's coming in before you're even born. And it is with you your entire life. So it's a way of your evolving spiritually and how you can develop spiritually and in the most rewarding and authentic way. So when you discover that and you work with that, it can change your life instantly. And I've had people say that a 15-minute reading changed their lives. I mean, I don't know what else can do that. Give me 15 minutes, you can change your life. It can be that profound. Just as an example, I had a teenager come to me who was brought to me by his aunt. He was struggling in school. He was just frustrated. He was a smart kid, but he was, adrift, as a lot of teenagers are. And so she wanted him to understand his life purpose so that maybe he could have a little bit different perspective on his path. So I did a very short reading with him. It might have been 30 minutes. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But I talked to the aunt about maybe a month or two after the reading. And I just asked her, so how's he doing? How did he respond? And she's like, oh, he's completely turned around. His life has totally changed. He's excited about school now. He's got all these new interests and his whole world opened up from that reading. So that made me really happy. So sometimes I don't hear the response. I don't hear back from people sometimes, but I know it makes a difference because I've heard it over and over again. Yeah, I still have that little piece of paper you gave me on the life purpose, and I still carry it around, and I stuck it on my fridge, and I look at it. I hear stories like that all the time. So that's really fun. I don't know what else is like that. You know what I mean? It's profound. If someone is not sure about their purpose and they're looking for their purpose, I just recommend opening yourself up to questioning, invite assistance from your higher realms, your angels, your spirit guides. It's something I've always been open to. And I had also been meditating for many years prior to even discovering palmistry. And it's through that inner reflection and that inner seeking that you can really learn, and things will start to show up for you. So if you ask, you're going to get it. I guarantee you're going to get it. How is it going to come? For me, it came through a book at the library. But for you, it might come in another way. It might be a person showing up in your life. It might be a job opportunity that opens up. It might be going to a party and meeting somebody that you needed to meet. There could be an infinite number of ways it could show up for you. And if you're open to it and you're paying attention, it will find you. The effect I've had on others, I hope, has been positive. It is always my intention to uplift others, to bring new awareness to others, to help them with their ascension, help them with their spiritual growth, help them to see things in a new way, have a new perspective. I strive to be the embodiment of what I'm designed to be myself every day. I don't always succeed because I have my own lessons to work on as well, but I do strive for that every day. And I'm grateful for the opportunity just to be here because I know this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm very grateful for that. And the reflection of my life has actually improved over the years as I have gotten more and more on my purpose and on my path. My life is actually a reflection of a lot of beauty and joy and fun and excitement. I live a very exciting life. I'm not going to lie about that. I live a life most people would admire. To not be in your purpose is a place of what I call living a life half-lived. So if you're living a life half-lived, you're going to have a lot of issues going on in your life. You're going to probably experience some challenges, and those challenges are probably going to keep repeating over and over and over again because your life lesson is right in your face and it is wanting you to learn. It is demanding that you learn, but it doesn't judge you. It's going to just keep showing up until you learn it. And you have the option of learning it or not. It's up to you. And that's where the free will comes in, right? We have free will to choose. And the other side of the coin is that as you start to uncover the truth of who you are, the truth of your soul, the truth of your essence, your beingness, your divine self, your life is going to look a lot different. It's going to be having a sense that your life is the way that it should be. It's not always easy. It's not always perfect, but you just feel every day you wake up like, this is how it's supposed to be. This feels right. So there's a feeling of rightness versus a feeling of frustration. And that's, I think, the biggest two sides of the coin that you can experience. So for me, the choice is very easy. Choose purpose. Choose your soul path. Choose your divine self. And magic and miracles are going to open up for you. Magic and miracles open up when you're on your purpose because that's how the universe is. The universe is benevolent. The universe wants you to fulfill your purpose. That's why you came here. Okay, we went through the veil of amnesia. We forget everything. We forget everything about who we are. And then we spend the rest of our lives remembering. So it's And it's all perfect. It's all divine timing. And when we remember that we are divine, we have a soul, we have a purpose, we're unique. Every single one of us has a path unique to ourselves, and it cannot be fulfilled by anyone else. So when you come back to that knowingness, your life will naturally bring about magic and miracles. There's no other option. What would the world look like if we were living our purpose? If everybody was living their purpose, oh my gosh, that would look so freaking amazing. The world would be a completely different place, because we would no longer have this separation, this view that, oh, I don't have enough, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, or, there wouldn't be all of the competition that exists out there now. There wouldn't be any of the animosity that is going on. There wouldn't be a lack of jobs. There wouldn't be a lack of things going on. The productivity would skyrocket if everybody was actually living their purpose. And it would look completely different. I think there wouldn't be poverty anymore. I think there wouldn't be all of the social issues that are out there. I think they would just disappear. And that's part of what Ascension is. That's part of where we're moving towards, is once we all realize our divine selves, we're not going to be in those low vibrations anymore. We're going to raise our vibration up to our soul level, which is what we're here to do. And we're going to see that reflecting back through our universe. And it's going to be amazing. I'm excited to see that happen.